All right, it is time. I haven't seen anybody else do this. I don't know why. It needs to be done. And I'm just going to start this train. People are going to argue with me about this incessantly. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. So I am going to create a 4-tier character list. That's kind of just sad. There's one character in tier 1 and there's one character in tier 4. If you think I'm wrong, please put that in the comments. If you have thoughts, opinions, ideas, please put that in the comments. I want everybody to see and start having this discussion because we need to start having it. We need to start talking about this. So let's set some ground rules first off. So number one, criteria. The number one piece of criteria is all things held equal. That means, like, from my perspective, this is all based off level 100 characters with maxed skills, with equal gear, equal Omega cards, like all things being held equal. We're not comparing like a pay-to-play 1.2 million power character with a free-to-play starter level 100 260k power character, right? They just aren't the same comparison. So we're going to try to do as much as we can, as I would say, like apples to apples. We're just comparing varieties. So like Fuji versus Pink Lady, etc. I love apples. Honeycrisp. Oh, now I kind of want Honeycrisp apple. Anyway, refocusing. Next thing's next. Probably the biggest criteria for me and how a character performs is single target damage. Now, I know that people are going to be like, well, what about in Dark Zone? What about in Blitzes? What about in Spec Ops? I don't really care. I don't really give a shit. Like, candidly, they don't really matter all that much. They just don't. Like, all of those game modes, like clearing faster is like moderately helpful. And to be honest with you, most of the characters have like a decent AoE. Even Black Widow, who is the best single target damage character, has some reasonably good AoE attacks that are good enough for clearing mobs once all things are held equal and you have a character who's at like 500k. Even at 260k, she still like kills them. It takes a little while longer than some other characters, but she still kills them. And the reason I say this too is because I did a video a little while ago, and you should go watch it, on the best game modes. And the best game modes, by far and away, that based on like the rewards you get from them, are single target damage, right? So Omega War, kind of not. AoE does matter in Omega War, but kind of does. So if you're trying to kill like a specific ranker, who are the guy who has the most points, and you want to get half of those, then single target damage just matter. But prime targets are like one of the most important farms you do every day in the game, and getting number 1 matters a lot. You get so many more Omega cards for getting number 1 rank. So do that. Number 2 are raids, that you don't have to do the most damage. That doesn't really matter there. Same with blitzes. But like being able to kill the content faster means that you have more time to do other things that you think are fun during the time with which you played the game. So go do those. Single target damage matters a whole lot in raids because there's only one target. Blitzes, just getting through the content faster. Like if you kill the boss, all the ads don't even matter. If you can just like blitz through Maestro, for example, with just a couple of ultimate uses and her sniping ability, assassinate ability for Black Widow, it doesn't, that'll make your gameplay much better. And then Omega War, things are a little bit different. It is a little bit more nuanced there, so AoE does matter, which brings me to my third criteria, which is AoE damage. That matters more for Omega War, Blitzes, and Spec Ops. It does help to just get through the content faster, and AoE does matter. So it is factoring in, but it's not nearly as important as single target damage, in my opinion. Number 4, the character needs to be fun to play. Some characters, which we'll name shortly, are just more fun to play than other characters. They have like certain quirky mechanics that are just like interesting, fun, engaging, and have good stuff. yeah. Then 5, I think, just ties closely into that is the leveling experience. How miserable is it to just level through the game with them? Something definitely worth thinking about. I said this in an earlier video, but it took me 45 minutes to use my moderately geared Star-Lord through Maestro. 45 freaking minutes that I won't get back on my life. And that was after failing it like 5 times. And I was trying hard. I like brought the best trait enhancers. I had all high ranks. I did character kills. I had a couple of 5-star Omega cards that I'd gotten from farming New Stark City and a good drop otherwise. Like, he had like reasonable stuff. He was just over 300k for a free-to-play player. He should have been able to power through much faster. Then I brought in Black Widow, which granted, like, she had a little bit squad rank higher, but not much. She was pretty much almost all the way there by the time Star-Lord did it anyway, because you have to get to that squad rank level 55. And she got through it in like 10, 15 minutes. It felt like a breeze, like a total breeze compared to Star-Lord. So much easier. And she was like 80k less power. So, anybody who tells you that it's the same is just straight up lying to you and has never experienced a miserable leveling experience. Number 6 is mobility. This matters a lot for defensive plays. I think in Omega War as well as Dimensional Duel, does the character have good abilities, skills, etc. that allow them to just kind of like get out of the fight and still do damage? It's like, you can dodge with anyone, but can you still attack the people from far away? With Captain America, that's a no. With Black Widow, yes, Black Widow is crazy cool. Black Widow has 2 sets of basic skills. I don't know that anybody else really does. She has like a melee and a ranged. And like, depending on if you're hitting somebody up in the sky or you're attacking somebody on the ground, she has 2 different skills. Anyway, it's cool. She's cool. It's fun. Do it. Star-Lord just has 1. His is just range, but he has really great mobility to move him outside of the battle, which is actually kind of like the one thing he has going for him. And then last but not least is team play. Do they have debuffs? Do they have heals? Do they give overshield? Etc. Stuff like that. Stuff that's like that matters for team play. And like pretty much all characters except for Black Widow have like some kind of team buff ability that like increases attack if you're Star-Lord. Increases defense if you're Storm. I forget, like Spider-Man's little spider bots do, I can't remember which thing it is for him, but they do something for him. Captain America gives that overshield. So like everybody else pretty much has something that helps the team. Black Widow is the notable exception there. But it's at the bottom of my list because candidly most of the content you're going to be playing through on your own. Some end-game content like Dark Zone is team. The team matters, but I think the rewards are so mediocre that it's not even all that necessary to do to still be an end-game character, an end-game player. So without further ado, I mean, we're already like 8 minutes into the video. Let's jump in and cut through the BS and talk about what characters drop where. Number 1. Black Widow, not even close. It's like she's tier of her own. She's just better. She's just better than everybody. Her abilities. She's probably the only one I'm actually gonna like walk through her skills on because I just inevitably somebody's gonna be like, no, this person is better. They're just not. I haven't leveled Iron Man or Captain America, but I've watched enough Mobile Gamer and Valley Flying and Reminex to know exactly how the character would play and to watch how the character plays without having to do all of that work. Black Widow's skills are just so good. And I have the armor here to get this up to +4. But this sniper shot does 12,755 damage. Granted, Captain Marvel has an attack that does a higher base percentage, and Star-Lord has his problem solver skill that gets pretty close to that. But then you pair that with Vanish, which, by the way, mine's not even all the way leveled up. I'm only level 14 here, so 15 is going to get you all the way to 38% increased damage. Now, this is an important modifier. This is not increased crit damage. This is just increased damage. So and to my understanding, I'd like the devs to explain this a little bit more, but from just calculating the raw scores when I drop this, in combat. This multiplies the damage after this multiplier. So if I have like 10 times this, I'm at 12,750. Then times that number by an additional 38%. And then you multiply that again by her crit damage score. Because it's a guaranteed crit damage. It's a guaranteed crit whenever you do it. Which notably, it is a guaranteed crit. It's not an increase to the critical rate by 100%. It will always crit, even if the other person has a crit, a crit decrease, which I think is somewhere. Maybe there's not even. It's just a crit damage decrease. Anyway, either way. The crit damage decreases. I see like a max like 50 anyway. So, but she's gonna multiply that score again by another 135 for my character. And everybody who's playing Black Widow correctly, in my opinion, is increasing this critical damage as high as possible. She just is a bit of a glass cannon. There's no real reason to dump a lot into health and defense when she has such low base stats for both of those things. And when dumping them into crit damage, it's just worth so much value. So there you go. And then it's also multiplied by your base attack is how much attack she does. And then hit rate also will increase the odds of landing your dice rolls higher. So all of that matters. But basically, long story short, she just does like a shite ton of damage. And as it shows here, if you can like line this up, and this matters a lot when you're doing your playthrough, it is like a single target damage. But as long as you line the characters up in front of each other, it will damage all of them by roughly the same amount of damage. The modifier happens for each of those characters, so it rolls a dice for each of them. But like this one for me at 260k power is like 200,000 damage easy, like not even flinching. Again, 4-star Omega cards, 3-star gear. She just scales exceptionally well because of those abilities and how that all matches together. And then this is level 4 trap expert, and this still does like reasonable value for you. It is shock, which is probably the best debuff in terms of control, team survival. So for raids, blitzes, it matters. I think burn is probably overall the very best for like speed running content because it increases total damage received by 20%. This one just decreases the enemy's attack by 25%. So, but she does, and this does drop several stacks of shock, so you can help your team get to shock really quickly, and you can mix it with other things. But anyway, she's the best. And this is the other one you also notice in this animation. She has really good mobility. She moves backwards whenever she uses her 2 best attacks. Trap expert, she doesn't, but you can change this to be one that she does. Martial arts expert will also like push her forward and then kick her back. That's why I have all of those. Master spy, this one I just need the money to invest in, but a lot of people, sorry, not that one. Not that one. These are all the wrong ones. Trained assassin is actually the one. This one will like dash around, and then she'll end up in back of you. So this one like moves in of sorts, but it's on the other side, so it's kind of worth doing. Anyway, she just has like some good variety. The one downside I'd say is her skills. You can't line them up like you can with Iron Man and Star-Lord and some others to have like a Midgardia set cover every single skill. But Sniper Shot and Widow Sting do so much damage, it doesn't really matter. And Midgardia gives you buffs to both of these skills. And being able to just get regular armor that increases this one skill that is just better than all the rest for every game mode is pretty solid. Now, you can dodge it if you're an opponent. And like people have kind of figured that out a little bit. But if you have that one and this one, there's not a whole lot they can do. She's the best. Absolutely, no holds barred, no close second, in my opinion. So that brings us to our other character rankings, and in order to get to those, and I will cover this as part of her as well, we do need to go to the forum. And for whatever reason, this displays best in the game. I don't know why it's not working for me. One second. Let's connect to the VPN and see if that changes it. Do 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 do. You're welcome for the free background music. All right. Well, we're gonna be moving into tier 2 here. I just really want to walk you guys through each of these changes. For some reason, it's just being a little bit wonky on me. Change this other one very shortly if I can't get it. Apologize for the interruption. This is going to have cards in it, so if you're stuck watching this, just press the next chapter. That'll get you to where you want to be. All right, we're just going to jump in here and walk through it this way. So you can come to the forum, you can look at the notices, and this will give you a lot of details on stuff. So second dev feedback, hero balance adjustments. So a lot of people were frustrated by this. I honestly didn't notice much of a change whatsoever. I think the bigger, more problematic issues that happened were the whole rebalancing of the economy. To which anybody complaining, I'd just say, look, it's in soft launch. Of course, there was going to be an economy rebalancing. They wanted people to get up as fast and as quickly as they could so that they could see how end game and early game content scaled really quickly and keep making tweaks to the game so that they could move up their launch date so that they could capture the hype and make more money. And that's their job, is to make more money because, you know, they have to eat and feed their families. But let's walk through this. So these did very much factor into my calculations. But Doctor Strange is still coming in at number 2 for me. And even after these nerfs. And I apologize for this taking so long to get here, but I really needed this for him to describe why he's number 2. So, long story short, Doctor Strange has a stronger and wider AoE damage capability, and this strength is particularly prominent in co-op gameplay, also known as Dark Zone and Omega War. Due to his superior wide-range attack capability, other superheroes were at a disadvantage in fair play content, such as Special Operation. I disagree. I think this was like the stupidest reason for them to mention this, but his ultimate skill, Soul Sunderer, raises everyone up in the air, then smashes them all down, and it will kill you in Dark Zone. And a ton of players will spam this right at the end of a boss to kill everybody who's not in their alliance so that someone in their alliance can get the final hit in, which gives the most points. It's also really important in Omega War. At the end of Omega War, you can disable everybody's ability to move or force them to use all of their dodges. If you have 2 Stranges, it takes 2 dodges because you have to get out of the guard break when you're suspended in the air. You have to dodge out of the circle where the damage happens because it will kill you if you stay inside of the circle. So you have to use 2 dodges, so you can't use 3. Best case scenario, if somebody did 2 right in a row, you could like use your 3rd dodge, which you usually don't have 3 saved up in Omega War if you're playing correctly. And you could use your 3rd dodge to get out of it. This is a sidebar on why Black Widow is so good. Vanish also acts like a dodge. She becomes invulnerable when she does her Vanish. So she gets like 6 dodges because she has 3 charges on her ultimate. Nobody else has that, so she's the best. But anyway, this is still really, really good. He is an awesome team player. He does great AoE damage. He has good single target damage. I know a lot of people have really enjoyed leveling him up. I'm playing him up to like level 50 right now. He's pretty easy. Doesn't take a whole lot of thinking. He has some good heals. He has some good squad boosts, and then he has some really cool costumes as well. That didn't really factor in here, but fun to play maybe that factors into. Anyway, and then his he doesn't have a ton of mobility is probably the one downside for him, But everything he does is ranged anyway, so he doesn't really need to be inside the melee all that much. He's just kind of like a very classical wizard mage type character. And then Master Mystic Arts, Circular Shackles, AoE range decreased by 20%. So this made no difference. This damage decrease by 15% was pitiful, laughable, and did nothing to change the issue that people were having where his ultimate skill has like this massive AoE in both Omega War and in Dark Zone, and I think that the devs not tweaking that properly and then citing Special Operation as the problem is just a little bit tone deaf. Black Widow had a whole bunch of things change. Damage amplification decreased by about 20%. Cooldown increased by 15%. Underhand throw, that's her trap deluge, was damaged increased by 13%, so she'd get a little bit of a buff here. Explosive expert high explosive grenade increased by 6.5, and then her sniper shot, which is the one I was talking about, damage decreased by 13%. None of this mattered. She's still amazing. She still kills everything. These people are using her traps a little bit more now than they were before, especially in Omega War, but that's honestly mostly in my opinion because they're good AoE skills that get good damage in. Next is actually Captain America, in large part because they just buffed the sheez out of him. He's pretty fun to play watching. I haven't played him personally, but I've watched a lot of other people play him. A lot of people really enjoy playing him as a character. He is very unique. And even though the team play stuff ranked really low for me, his overshield is superbly impactful, and it will just buff any heroes around you. And it's just super, super good. He also does really, really good damage. His bleeds are not all that consequential. It reduces the opponent's ability to heal, but that doesn't really matter in any game mode except for Dark Zone. So we'll have to wait to see how that factors in over the long haul. But improved skill judgment precision. I don't really know what that means, but people are saying he's a little bit easier to play now. In particular, you'll see his forte in defensive capability and co-op play. And I just think that Captain America is going to be basically a required character for team play modes. People are going to start asking, hey, can somebody bring a cap in for certain things? His applied shield effect was increased by 20%. Captain's provocation, this is where he's the one character that forces a taunt, which is super helpful in Lao Fei in the mid game and late game. When you're doing Lao Fei raids or prime boss targets on Lao Fei in Dark Zone or in Midgardia. And then his damage reduction effect is increased by about 100%. Guard damage received reduction increased by 100%. So now the guard damage against the opponent is increased. And then applies the same value as the damage reduction effect. Cooldown time increased by about 20%. So they did make it so you can't use it quite as often, but still super solid. Health recovery effect increased by 33% for his leadership. Captain's resolution. I think the provocation used more in PvE and the Captain's resolution in PvP. So he has different builds that are good for each of those situations. Shield impact damage reduction effect increased from 30 to 50. New guard damage received reduction increased by about 50%. Oh, he also does massive guard damage. I didn't really put that in, but that's also a team play mechanic for just taking down a boss. A lot of people make a big deal about it a few weeks ago. I really don't think guard damage matters all that much, but it is helpful. And then does not jump. I actually think burn is more helpful than breaking guard because it's just constant damage the enemy is taking. But he does not jump onto the enemies. Instead, releases the shock in his current place. So there are some weird things to him moving in and sticking onto people. He also struggles a little bit with flying enemies, so that's why he's certainly not tier 1, but like he is the best team player character, period, no questions asked. He probably is between 2 and 3, like my tiers, but I do think he belongs up here. Now, next is Storm. I think she got a lot of buzz because Darth Micro played her first. She is the best AoE character. She has some amazing single target damage. She got no nerfs, so she's still pretty solid. Her ultimate is a little slow. The animations are long, and she doesn't have a lot of mobility. Otherwise, she'd probably be tier 1, candidly. She has some really good specializations. The constant zap damage is super obnoxious when you're playing an Omega War. Her defensive orbs that she puts around herself are awesome. She has like 2 different moves that give her invulnerability frames. Super solid character. The leveling experience is superbly easy. Her basic does AoE like Doctor Strange's does. So Doctor Strange and Storm in here in tier 2 mostly just because leveling and moving through the early, mid, and even late game is just so much easier with them. Black Widow is by far the best in terms of total damage, but the other 2 just move through the content so quickly that I'd certainly rank just below her. Tier 3, Captain Marvel. She got a huge buff to her ultimate. Guard cannot be broken while ultimate is active, and then her Proton Blast cooldown time increased by about 30%. This is like her main damage attack. Does like 2,500% damage. A lot of people really like Captain Marvel. Was too powerful when Captain Marvel used in Blitz and Raid. Whatever. Anyway, she's a great character for just pure sheer damage without modifiers. She just gets in there and does it real good. Her animations are a little weird. Her mobility's not great, but she has so much armor and does so much damage that it kind of overcompensates for that. But she is just a little bit clunky. She is still a little bit weird to play. Her level of experience from people I've watched and talked to and from the little tiny bit that I've played of her is not the best. So that's why she's down here. Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider Burst, Spiderweb effect display decreased by about 75%. Just made it impossible to see stuff. So, causing inconvenience as he obstructed players' views, but nothing changed in how he actually played. He's tier 3. I know that Darth Micro and some other people talked him up, but the fact that they haven't actually played him all that much and don't continue to try to play him all that much is proof in the pudding for me that he deserves to be in tier 3. The webs are very unique. Getting totally webbed is super annoying in Dimensional Duel, but he's not unbeatable. Overcapping his dodge is possible, but it takes so much finessing and detracts from so many of his other stats that it's really not all that meaningful. And he doesn't do that much great team play stuff. His spider bots do have like 1 buff in one of their abilities for your team, but it's not all that great. Just kind of underwhelming generally. Then rounding out the bottom is Iron Man. I know a lot of people like the leveling experience for Iron Man. He can do a lot of damage with like his burst missiles. And then his summoning of the Iron War clone dudes, his extra Iron Man bots is kind of nice for distractions. He does really good burns along with Star-Lord. Iron Man and Star-Lord are the best burners, but it just ranks so low in my ranking that he just ends up here in number 7, which then creates our 4th tier, which has 1 character, which is Star-Lord, very much the worst character. I've played him from launch, and he has not gotten better, and the buff they gave him was just kind of a joke. His ultimate gear gauge recovery increased by about 16%. His ultimate is good. It procs burn, chill, and shock, so damage from the bosses is reduced by 25%, damage received increases by 20%, and their speed and skill cooldowns are decreased by the chill. But it's just meaningless. Candidly, you have to play into the content for so long with a character that does so little damage that is just obnoxious. He has good mobility. That's the only thing that really makes him playable right now. Single target damage is a joke. AoE total damage is also a joke. His gravity bomb is kind of the notable exception as one of the best CCs in the game. It'll group enemies together and force them into the air. If you guard break an opponent in PvP like Dimensional Duel, it will also force them in the air. But it's kind of worse than Spider-Man's webs because Spider-Man is only doing webs, and you could have to build your entire build towards a guard break, which is pretty much just chill for Star-Lord, and chill is the worst of all the debuffs. So he is, in my opinion, absolutely the worst. Let me know what you guys think about this list, because that rounds it out. I don't really kind of want to just I don't have much more to say other than I really wish that the game would have pulled this up in game because it's easier to read there. But this is the breakdown of all the changes that happened to the characters. That's where I'm ranking them post hotfix. I think it was more of a hotfix than a true patch because this is only a few tweaks, not enough to actually change the in-game player economy very much. Star-Lord needed a whole lot more love for him to actually be playable. But let me know what you guys think. Who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite? Which one of these did I get totally wrong? Who do I need to play more to have more personal experience before opening my big fat mouth? Until next time, though, get out there, keep on gaming. Bye for now.